And welcome back to Luminary Leaders Live. My name is Shelley Harrison, and I am your host. I am also the CEO and founder of Luminary Leaders. We represent phenomenal speakers across the country. And today I get to be a host of the show, and I have a very special guest that I've been talking with for a few months here, and she's done some great work with me. And I want to introduce Kip Clarke. She is a powerful coach. She is also a love of the ocean. Her and I both have that in common. We both love the ocean. And she has her own podcast show. You're going to hear a lot about Kip, and we're going to have some great questions for her. So I want to thank our audience for tuning in. And Kip, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well, Shelley. It's a delight to see you. I'm bedazzled by that intro. It's beautiful.
Oh, well, you are definitely worthy of it and deserve that. When I first met you, Kip, I was just like, we were fast friends, and there was just this spark that developed in terms of the way that we had conversations and what we talked about. And I do need to mention that, my brother had passed away a few years ago, and I think I was going to the gym the day that we were on Zoom having a meeting, and you shared something with me that I did when I went to the gym, and it just was so profound. And I want to thank you for that, because it really opened up my eyes to something that I never even thought to do before. And it really put me in touch with my brother, because I do miss him. So Craig and Cardoni, you're up there in the heavens. So, but back to you, Kip. I would love for you to just share a little bit about yourself and let people know. Number one, you're in Canada, so we're excited to have you on the show today from Canada. But let's hear from you.
Well, thank you so much, Shelley. Yes, it's a bitterly cold day here in Canada, but we're used to it. My goodness, where do I begin? I was a career academic. I taught for over 32 years, post-secondary, absolutely loved it. I remember thinking more than multiple times, actually, standing in front of a class, I'd be busy working on things. I couldn't believe I was getting paid to do something I loved so much. And I think part of it was the interaction that we get to have with students and seeing them get switched on to something that's exciting. But also I love learning myself. And truly, there's nothing like needing to teach something to really force you to understand it and to learn about it. So, but I retired from that a few years ago, and I felt like I had more to give. I had a lot of energy still. And so I had been doing coaching on the side for a long time. I was certified as a coach way back in the early 1990s, before it was really a thing. It's exploded over the last years. But it was really not that well known. And so I did that kind of as a side gig, more as a hobby. And a lot of it was connected to sport, because I am an athlete. And so sometimes I would be at tournaments and I'd be talking to parents who had young athletes, so they were trying to do the best for them, and they wouldn't necessarily know what's the best way to talk to my child so that he or she doesn't get discouraged, but I really help her, push her forward a little bit. So it started that way, and then just developed over time. And when I retired from teaching and decided to really see what I could do with this coaching thing, I decided to shift my focus a little bit, and so now I work primarily with high achievers, but that's still there's a broad range of people. So I do get to work with elite athletes, and CEOs, leaders of companies, entrepreneurs, other coaches, and I love it because, well, I'm learning something all the time, so that keeps me highly engaged. But I love sharing what I'm learning, and I love seeing the difference that the coaching can make in someone's life. Sometimes
absolutely,
conversation, can change the trajectory of a person's life, and that feels amazing when that happens.
Oh, it absolutely does. And case in point, what you did, with me and my brother, where it just brought me so much closer, and you as an athlete, share with our audience, because I'm sure they want to know, you're an athlete, and what of sport did you do?
Oh, well, lots of them, most of them, a lot of them. So I grew up with older brothers in a neighborhood of mostly boys. So we had a lot of hockey, I can tell you, a true Canadian neighborhood, a lot of road hockey,
Oh,
spring, summer,
hockey.
fall. And then my father, late father, bless his heart, he would build a rink for us in the back of the property
Oh,
every winter. So we played ice
wow.
hockey.
Oh my
And
gosh.
just a very active childhood. Photos of me when I'm little, if I'm sitting on someone's knee, my arms and legs are going because I just want to get down and get running, you know.
Yeah.
So I played basketball, volleyball, field hockey. I was a competitive rower for a while, and then I did a little bit of sport coaching.
Incredible.
I went
Yeah.
out west in the late 1980s, and I kept running into people who were tennis players. So I started playing tennis, and that's really become my big passion for most of my adult life is tennis, and that's where I've had the most success, the most fulfillment. I
Mm.
have to confess, though, I've had 2 hip replacements, osteoarthritis. So that's
Oh,
slowed me down in the last couple of years, but I'm now just starting to get back to training and playing a little bit. And I've
good.
got, I've got goals ahead of me that I am living from.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to think that I'll be able to get back into competing and training and playing at that level again.
Isn't that exciting? And, the fact that you are a tennis player, that's another thing that we had in common,
Yes.
because my husband is a tennis player and he's
Yeah.
just injured himself,
Mm.
where I'm hoping that he's going to be able to play this weekend. He's in a league. But tennis is a great sport. And they've got oh my gosh, is it the Australian Open?
Yes.
It's going right now.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Yeah.
It
To see
is.
the
It is.
tennis. Yeah. And pretty
Yeah.
soon it'll be out at Indian Wells here in California.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
one of my favorite
yeah.
tournaments. Yeah.
So you had mentioned, you coach high performing athletes. So give us kind of a glimpse as to what that looks like when you start working with a high achiever, or where you are working with someone that really wants to get much, up level so much that you're there to help them with that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's different for everyone in some ways, but there are some commonalities as well. So with athletes, and that's just one subset of the people that I coach, but certainly with
Mhm.
athletes, um, the interesting thing about sport, the thing that's really compelling about it is we never totally master it. We never get to the point where we say I am perfect in this. There's
Right.
always more
Yeah,
to learn.
there
And
always is.
yeah, so it's and at a certain level, the physical ability, the training, the agility, the endurance is very similar from one athlete to another. And what makes the difference between someone who competes and someone who is successful is the mindset. It's the mental focus, is
That's
being
right.
able to stay in the right frame of mind for the duration of the competition. And tennis is a sport, of course, where you're dealing with all kinds of variables. There's no time limit on matches. You can have a completely different weather at the start of the match to the end of the match. There are different surfaces that you play on. So
Right.
there's a lot that the athlete is dealing with. But certainly an athlete in any sport, it's when they get to a certain level, it's all about mindset. And that's the same with other categories of people that I coach, whether it's
Mhm.
an executive of a company, whether it's other coaches, it's entrepreneurs. It's
Yeah.
about developing a mindset to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And there's so much to learn in that. And I get to use the decades of wisdom I've acquired through my own experiences and just
Oh,
talking
yeah.
and working with literally thousands of people. Um, it's it's amazing. And what I'm starting to work on now is an idea called threshold concepts.
Oh,
And I've been thinking about this way back when I was a student myself in a doctoral program. I came across some research by these 2 academics named Meyer and Land, and they were looking at student achievement in higher education.
mhm.
And they were focused on specific fields like accounting or mathematics, but it's applicable, I feel, to coaching too, because there are
Mhm.
certain concepts that when we learn them, they open up a whole new understanding, whole new levels of understanding, and a new kind of mindset ceiling in effect.
Yeah.
Things expand for us. So they gave an example of opportunity cost for an accountant. If a student is learning accounting, if that student never really gets a grasp of opportunity cost, that's a student that will never really thrive in that discipline.
And
And
right.
so
That makes
the
sense.
idea of a threshold is that we're kind of passing over from out of the old way of understanding how things work into a whole new understanding. So what characterizes a threshold concept, they're transformative, first of
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah.
They're integrative. So they will show by understanding a particular concept. So in coaching, it might be something like the power of the subconscious mind, to really get how the subconscious mind works. When you understand it, it's integrative. It's an integrative kind of concept. So it shows how
Yeah.
things connect together in ways that weren't available to us before we understood the concept. They can be
Mm.
troublesome because we're presented with a new way of thinking about the world and our place in it. And so
Yeah.
we can get caught sometimes, and I see this when I'm coaching people,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm suggesting, or we're heading towards a new understanding of something, it can be a confronting thing for some people. It can really
It can
challenge
be. Yes.
existing
Yeah.
worldviews. So it's like we've got one foot in the old way of understanding, and one foot, or maybe just a toe, dipped in the new, and we're not sure if we want to take it on yet. And that point is
Yeah.
called the liminal state. And I love
It's
it
fascinating.
as a
Yeah.
place to coach people from, because there's so much opportunity. So if I
Oh,
can
there is. Yeah.
yeah, if I
And
can
it's
support,
unrealized. It's unrealized, almost like
yeah,
people are stuck, and it's a different way of looking at being stuck,
it
and
is.
having that threshold where, some people don't believe that they can go further. And having someone like you come in and show them that it is possible, and to, expand their thinking or their mindset.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we can never see our own blind spots. I include
Mhm.
myself in this. I work with coaches. All the coaches I know who are really outstanding coaches have their own coaches. And it's because we can't see our own blind spots.
Yeah,
Sometimes we need
sometimes
someone
we
else,
can.
yeah, to help us see them, to shine a light on it, and then to guide us, to a new understanding. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just it's an exciting way of working with people, because, as I said, it's
Yeah.
a single conversation can completely change a person's life, and I love it when that
Oh my God.
happens.
I know. And it's almost like curiosity, when you meet someone. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation because, and I don't know if Paul is watching, Paul Kreider, who is with Kreider Creations. He is one of my coaches. And we were just talking about, with me having my company, and I represent speakers across the country, but yet I'm the shy one when it comes to getting on stage. So he is helping me to get outside my box. And I'm going to make sure I tag him in this, because I just called myself out.
Yeah.
But that's exactly, where people, they have potential, and you help them to really tap into that. And I see that in you, Kip, because the conversations that you and I have, you've pulled things out of me that I didn't even know were possible. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and that
there's
that
that.
takes some certain conditions. The person has to be willing, it has to be
That's
coachable, and you're
true.
very
Absolutely.
open to that. But you've touched on something really important there that I want to highlight, Shelley, and that's that
Yeah.
it's in you. Your coach sees something in you that you maybe don't see yourself, and he helps
Yeah.
to bring it out into the light. It's in each of us. We have in us already everything that we need, and
You're
sometimes it
right.
just takes a bit of
Yeah,
support from someone outside us to help us see that, and to help us make the most
absolutely.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I was kind of looking at your website, there were three things that really poked out at me. And here are three truths that make all the difference. And this is directly on Kip's website, which is kipclark.com. And number one, you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, and you don't need fixing. You never did. And number two, you were always meant for more. All you need to do is claim your birthrights of unconditional love, creativity, and abundance. And number three, your power lies in your subconscious mind, which we were just
Mhm.
talking about.
Mhm.
Once you harness that power, you'll be unstoppable, and it's easier than you think. And the one word that really resonates with me is unstoppable.
Mm.
So, can we go there? Can we talk about being unstoppable?
Well, from what I see of you, you're so inspiring to me. You're an unstoppable force. You're a
Oh,
perfect
oh,
example of that.
you're kind, Kip. Thank you.
Well, you
I
know, you're
appreciate that.
the thing with high achievers is we're just hardwired to be constantly looking for the next way we can make things better. And that
Yeah, that's
manifests in
beautiful.
all different ways. You help people to get better at speaking. I think you're a kind of LinkedIn queen. You've really got some
I
amazing
try.
things going
I
there.
try.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so with high achievers, what I love about working with them is that they don't want to spend a lot of time feeling sorry for themselves. They'll
Right.
recognize
Yeah.
they're stuck, and if they can just get unstuck, then they're right back into action again, making things happen. And
Yep.
so I love the energy of that because it builds on itself.
Mhm.
I love the hope in it. My goodness, we're in a time globally where hope is compromised, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so the more people like you and me and others that we interact with, the more we can do to help support others to lead their best lives and to accomplish the things they want to accomplish, the better things are then for everybody, because there's always a ripple effect to what we're doing.
Yes.
So I might
That
have
is so true.
a conversation with you and it changes something for you in that moment. And then you go and when you're interacting with your husband, something changes there and with kids or with
Yeah.
others in your work community. So we can never underestimate the power of just making a difference in one other person's life. And I think it's our duty to do that. If we have the ability, it's our duty to do that.
Gosh.
You touched upon something from my website, and that's this idea that we're not broken. None of us is actually broken. We don't need fixing. And
Yeah.
I used to have an image of a beautiful piece of China pottery, and it was clearly a vase that had been broken and then reassembled. And there's this
Yeah.
lovely philosophy in Japanese culture called kintsugi. And it's
Oh,
this idea that when something is broken, we don't try to repair it such that it looks perfect again or it looks the way it was before it was broken. We repair
yeah.
it in a way that highlights the wound. And so
Oh,
vessels are repaired with gold. They're actually put back
oh.
together with lacquer and then coated with gold. And what that does
Mm.
is it highlights the scars. And it's a recognition that for us, as I apply it to us as humans, we go through things, we get wounded, we develop scars. Trying
Yeah.
to hide them, I think, is a disservice. If we show our scars, if we're vulnerable, if we talk about the ways that we've stumbled and had challenges and had some failures, which are really just feedback, then
Yeah.
we're actually more relatable to other people. And it's like I've earned these. I've earned the wrinkles and the gray hair, and I've got some scars on my hips now from the surgeries. And I
Yeah.
feel kind of proud of them because they're markers of what I've accomplished in my life in a way. So
That's
kintsugi
right.
says we repair something in a way that it's even more beautiful than the original
Oh,
because of
love
what
that.
the vessel has gone through in getting
That
to that state.
That is so fast. I love that. And when you really think about it, it has such a beautiful meaning.
It really
To look
does.
at something that's broken and, now it's even better than it was before and
Yep.
more, just more appealing, I
Yeah.
guess, is
Yeah.
what you could, say.
Yes.
Um, Thank you for sharing that. And I know on your LinkedIn, it's kind of it's fun because you say that you're a fountain pen addict. And I
Yes.
have to go there because I really want to know what that's about.
Oh, when I was in my undergrad days, I took a course as an elective in calligraphy, and it was
Oh, yeah.
fascinating to me. And it was a full year core, like the full academic year course. The first one, we learned different hands, and then we learned about the history of calligraphy. And the second one, we learned more hands, and we learned about the bookbinding techniques and so on.
Yeah.
So I've just always really loved it. I'm looking at the corner of my desk where I have a pen holder that has 15 to about 20 fountain pens.
Oh my goodness.
And there's just something about, and I even have ink wells. I have little ink bottles everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I go old school. I dip and write.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And calligraphy is such a beautiful, I mean, it's beautiful writing.
It is, and it's creative and it's expression. And there's something interesting. The brain gets activated in a different way when we have any kind of pen to paper. So this is something I can offer for your listeners. If you get stuck, and I'm not talking just about writer's block, but if you're stuck with anything in your life, write it out, write it down, pen to paper. Because once we write it down, now we can let our subconscious take over. We say, you start problem solving, because you're going to be able to solve this in a way that's way better and faster and more all-encompassing than anything I can create from my conscious mind. But the first step is writing it down. So writing has always been, even just for my regular writing, I use fountain pens. I don't know.
I bet you have beautiful writing too. I haven't seen your writing, but I bet it's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, it's expressive. I'll say that.
Expressive. Yeah. Wow. Well, this is all great stuff. I love it. And I know that you have the Spark Lounge. So I would love to have you share about your Spark Lounge.
Yeah, thank you. It's something that I'm going to be launching next month. So it's a kind of a mastermind, kind of a container for anybody who has a big goal or a project in mind. And maybe you're feeling a little stuck, or maybe even you're just the kind of person like I was for a long time when I was young. I remember so clearly feeling like I was meant for something big. I remember having that feeling when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I didn't know what it was, but I just had this feeling. So if you're like that and you just feel like there's something unexpressed in you, come and join us. It's fairly low cost. I'm going to go through a series of topics, threshold concepts that I think can be really transformative for people. We'll tackle one each month for about 10 months. And there'll be a little bit of teaching and learning. There'll be a little bit of coaching, a little bit of hot seat stuff, some Q&A. But really the power of something like this is that you get into a room with other like-minded people who are up to something big. Because I'm sure, as you found, Shelley, you're surrounded by people that are up to big and fabulous things. And it just, it raises everybody in that environment. So
the vibration and everything. I mean, it's just an energetic type or an energy force that it's waiting to be discovered or come out.
Exactly. It's that beautiful synergy that happens. So it's something that's greater than the sum of its parts. When the right people get into a space together, it's like magic can happen. And there's a saying that I love, and I've actually written it out and got it posted where I can see it. And that is that, if you're feeling like you're the smartest one in the room, and you can substitute any word, most creative person, most interesting person in the room, you're in the wrong room. What you need as a high achiever, you need to get into a room with other people that are up to even bigger things, because that's what helps to propel you forward. So I never want to be the most the smartest or the most interesting and the most creative person in this space, because I want to come and find out what are other people up to here,
Right.
So I purposely set up ways that I can get into spaces with people that are up to something big.
Gosh. And now, how do people get into the Spark Lab? How do they find you?
Yeah, I think probably the best way is just to shoot me a message. So either through social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be on Facebook, but I'm still there for now. You can reach me at email, kip@kipclark.com. I'm sure you'll have all this in the.
We're going to have it on. Yeah. All the links will be on the show notes, but for the podcasters that are going to be listening, we want to make sure that they know too.
Yeah. Yes. And so, definitely. And I've got my own podcast, as you alluded to earlier, called Wise Minds, Wild Hearts. Yeah. It's a podcast for soulful high achievers. And I talk about all kinds of things, some of these threshold concepts, and and ways of viewing past, present, future that are completely different from how most people view them. So there's a lot there. I just launched it in the fall, so it's just getting going, but I'm getting good traction, and it's fun
Congratulations on that.
to see
Yeah,
how.
I did listen to an episode. I can't remember which one it was because I listened to it maybe, I don't know, a month ago, but it was very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you found it helpful.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. And you're just very giving of just such wonderful ideas and thought processes and things that help people really take a look at what are the possibilities that, that could surface for them. So
Yeah.
great job on that, Kip. And,
Thank you.
thank you for everything that you've done for me. I want to ask you one last question. So if you were, because we're almost done with the broadcast, but if you were able to have dinner with just a famous person, who would it be and why?
Wow, that's an interesting question. How do I
Yeah,
choose just one?
I know, right?
Um, a person that's a historic figure that's always fascinated me is Jacqueline Kennedy, for
Oh,
lots of reasons. I mean,
yes.
the epitome of style and grace, but she
Oh,
was a
yeah.
very intelligent woman. She spoke multiple languages. She had an enormous sense of history.
Oh,
Um, and just what she went through as an individual and the way she carried herself through that is absolutely extraordinary. So
yeah.
she's one. Do I have to limit it to
Yeah.
one?
You could,
I
let's
can
do one more. Let's do
Charles
one
Dickens
more.
might be another one. FDR might be another.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of people.
Oh,
I'd have
I'm sure. I'm sure. No, but that is interesting. And she was such a classy woman.
Yeah,
Very classy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, gosh. Well, Kip, this was so much fun. And, we're both curly girls. So we want to give a shout out to all the girls with curly hair out there, the young ladies, all of the ladies in between. And again, Kip, I'm just so grateful that we met because and we were going to do this live show a couple of, I think, last month. And it just, unfortunately, there were a few things that prevented us from doing it. But I'm so glad that you're here and that we finally were able to do this. So
Me
thank
too.
you. I appreciate it.
Uh,
And yeah, and we want to just thank our viewers, our subscribers for tuning in. And you'll be able to upload this podcast and listen to it at the gym while you're on your way to work or wherever you listen to your podcast apps. And we want to thank everybody for being here. Kip, thank you for being a wonderful
my
guest.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, and we will make sure that all the links are in the show. And for those of you that are interested in our Spark Lounge, or lounge, I was going to say lounge, Spark
Laugh loud.
Lounge. Oh, yeah. So we'll make sure that that's in the show notes, so you can absolutely sign up and be a part of it. Like she said, it's very affordable. And if you would like to get in touch with Kip, please make sure that you do. She's just lovely. And thank you for tuning in today. And everybody have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.